Time to get tied on. We are off and running. Little Sunday afternoon here at beautiful Gulfstream Park. Life after the Summit of Speed. You can tell from Ron Nicoletti. He is pumped up and ready to go. Jason Blewett alongside, and it's good to have you with us on this Sunday, July 2nd. What a day Summit of Speed 2017 was.
Turned out to be a perfect day with very, very competitive races, which made it all the more fun. And we saw some really nice horses, get there first. But it was not an easy day for most of the horses in the race. They really had to struggle to get those victories, and that's what made it, as I said, fun.
It felt like, maybe with the exception of the Smile and the Princess Rooney, that the average win margin was about this big yesterday on both the turf and the dirt. The races, even the lower level claiming races or turf claimers on the card, were terrific, tightly and hotly contested down to the wire. Of course, a new chapter begins today with 11 fresh races on this Sunday card. Plenty of ground to cover over the next half hour or so on this Sunday edition of Gulfstream Today, live from our paddock studios. But we wouldn't be doing the game service if we didn't start out by backtracking to yesterday's highlights. The Breeders' Cup win in your in stakes on that Summit of Speed card, beginning with Curlin's Approval, who was just dynamite in the Grade 2 Princess Rooney. Obviously, she came into this race with some questions of her own to answer, but we got the real Curlin's Approval showing up yesterday.
Yeah, she didn't fare very well in Churchill Downs. She comes back to her home track. Boy, was she ultra impressive. This is one of the races, on the card that really stood out to me, and the Curlin's Approval just spectacular at 7 furlongs.
We wish she was yours. I wish she was mine. Happy Alter, the owner and breeder. Marty Wolfson listed as the trainer in the program. 4-year-old filly by Curlin. If she is yours, where do you go next? Clearly, she punched her ticket out to Del Mar for the BC Filly and Mare Sprint. Do you look at Saratoga potentially for her?
I think you got to. I think you got to, keep her going. You can't just train her up to the Breeders' Cup. But I think you got to go and see. I think this horse out of town, keeping it at a distance. And I spoke to Happy Alter a couple of times. The mile in the 16th might be a little too tough for her, distance-wise. So I think a mile and that around there is good for this horse.
Yeah, I wonder if the Honorable Miss and the Ballerina might just be on the radar now for Curlin's Approval throughout the summer, and clearly they'll have a way to get out to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint on November 5th. A race later, just as dynamite and just as flashy and impressive with the razzle-dazzle, was Imperial Hint, who was just eviscerated the field. He was terrific, to be blunt about it. Shipping down to Gulfstream Park, Florida bred with very little pedigree, was able to sit the pocket and took dirt covered up, and that's basically the first time he's ever done that in his career at this level.
It looked like jockey Javier Castellano was looking for room all the way up the backstretch. He finally found that seam, and as you can see, drew off. And this is a really nice horse, another win in your in, so we'll see him at Del Mar too.
Yeah, no question about it. Based up at Parks, and just a real good horse who clearly, although he got sick and contracted a fever over in Dubai, he is back at the top of his game, and a real nice runner for trainer Luis Cabajal Jr. If you can't root for the small mom-and-pop stables in this day and age to have a good horse and a perhaps once-in-a-lifetime horse like Imperial Hint, I don't know who you can root for. So good stuff all around as Luis Saez and Javier Castellano shipped in and both had solid afternoons at Gulfstream Park. And although we won't relive the replay, the carryback turned out to be as good as advertised going in between Three Rules and Mo Cash. What did you think of the effort of Three Rules?
I thought Three Rules was fantastic, but I thought Mo Cash was equally as impressive. And Mo Cash, I spoke to Ronnie Spatz, the trainer of Mo Cash, right after the race a little while later, and he said that, that Three Rules was out there a little wider than normal, and he doesn't think his horse actually saw Three Rules and maybe would have fought back, but he said, hey, I got beat by a champion and my horse ran fantastic, and that's exactly what happened. And Three Rules coming back, was wide in the stretch, but got the job done, was very, very tenacious through the stretch.
And with 4th of July here in the second half of the season very much underway for these top-class sprinters and all the divisions, to be honest about it, I would imagine both the connections of Three Rules and Mo Cash are trying to get to the Breeders' Cup Sprint with those 3-year-olds. Do you see, if you're trading Three Rules, where do you look for next specs for that horse.
I'd see if you can find something here. I think he needs another race here if there's some kind of overnight stake and you get him going. And maybe you do go to Saratoga and, try, one of the races up there, to see if you can get some bottom in him and beat the fastest horses in the country when he gets to Delaware.
All right, maybe a little King's Bishop action.
Bishop,
You've got the prep for that up there as well. The Amsterdam early on in the meet towards the end of July. We'll see Mo Cash and Three Rules very good. And again, the hype lived up, the pre-race hype, to what we saw about a 16th of a mile from where our paddock studios are situated right off the walking ring at Gulfstream Park. But we do turn the page. That's the beauty of the game. You win the Derby, you're looking ahead to the Preakness. Some of the speed's over. You're looking ahead to this 11 race card, in which we'll give you a little rundown of what's on tap today, beginning with the opener at around 1:15 with that dollar rolling super high five and a little carryover to get you in a good mood, a good wagering mood of over $3,600 that will coincide with the opening leg of Sunday's early pick 5 on this July 2nd. A few races later, Ronnie, will bring on the Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six will start in race 6 this afternoon. $18,000 plus in that pool. So make sure you mark that down. Starts in race 6 this afternoon.
And race number 7 on this 11-race program begins the late pick 5 for 50 cents. I'll be giving tickets out for both of them. Ronnie's got the Rainbow Six covered. And off we go from the starting gate. Again, grab a hold of those reins because we've got the first of 11 coming up and the opening of 2 pick 5s on the program. In fact, what are we putting in this early pick 5? It's been tough going of late. We'll try to right the ship here for an $18 play, as in the first race I'm using trainer Mike Maker and trainer Ralph Zadie, as well as the controlling speed perhaps in Indian Chaser. Second race, just a nice little spread, 3 distinct running styles, inside and outside for me in race number 3. Our race, I should say, one of the few in here on today's card that had a scratch at Gulfstream Park. This was a card in which scratches and changes were pretty much a non-factor when we got scratches about an hour ago. Hoping the 4 and 7 in the fourth pull better trips today, and a little fresh Zadie claim, and just, I think, a better fit all around for the anchor of my early pick 5, the number 8, Taken to Church, who gets a little more distance today and is coming back fresh off a Zadie claim. I think Ralph Zadie may have a big first half to this Sunday card as well. What did you think, by the way, Ronnie, was Ralph Zadie's pay any price in the Bob Humphrey Turf Sprint?
We got what we expected. That horse is fast. He's just a monster, and he just got to the lead and just drew off. It was a very, very impressive performance. One of the other races on the card that was just so impressive that afternoon, and that horse is one word: fast.
He is fast. 101 buyer for pay any price in that Bob Humphrey Turf Sprint. 7 stakes on yesterday's card. The fans betting with both fists. We handled well over $12 million in a hearty Gulfstream Park and Gulfstream Today salute to our great customers, and glad you're with us as we set sail into the first race today. And we begin on the turf. There's plenty of green to go around on this July 2nd card at Gulfstream. 7.5 furlongs on the turf for this 3-and-up filly mare, $16,000 claimer, in which I had used 3 in my early pick 5. I like the fact that Mike Maker has Arella Princess. You've got trainer Ralph Zadie, who in addition to having live horses in the 3rd and the 5th, also has the 8 Wild Chatter, who, when it comes down to it, I think when push comes to shove, and maybe it's not by a huge margin, but she's coming out of the best fields of late, or 2 races most recently against better.
Yeah, she's making her first start since rallying to finish the close of 4th behind a couple of next out $16,000 optional claiming winners called Majestic Mariah and Aquemini, and Ralph Zadie's pretty good with the layoff of 31 to 60 days. Well, you look at the stats, they're always good. He's about 30%. So Wild Chatter was my topic pick in here, but you got to look through this race and notice the conditions. Not only is it a condition non-winners of 3 Other Life, it's a race on the turf since January 20th, so you got to start to look down and see who might fit the conditions of this race.
Now, a 3-time winner is the 2 Arella Princess, who might just be the main danger to the outside runner in Wild Chatter, much like the outside filly, who's going to be a shorter price, and maybe not by a ton, but she'll be the favorite in here for Zadie and Gaffleone. You've got Arella Princess for Maker and Zayas, as we continue to see, no matter what the level, the Maker barn, just the outstanding work that he and his crew do on the turf, including and thinking of yesterday's upset win in the Grade 1 UN up at Monmouth Park.
At Monmouth Park, and Arilla Princess fits these conditions, as I was just talking about, perfectly. Sitting on a winning performance. She returned from that layoff. She finished that fast closing second behind that repeat winner called Fearless Princess, a $10,000 open claimer at the distance.
All right, Edgar Zayas again from post number 2 as he comes off a 3-winning Summit of Speed Saturday program right here at GP. The good news, and maybe you have a little hangover from yesterday's 14-race card, and the stakes were so terrific once again, but I really like diving into this Sunday card for a new day of racing and finding 3 maiden special weights on the program for 2-year-olds. That always adds excitement, always adds an intriguing level, and the Colts and Geldings are up first. The boys in race number 2 for this $50,000 maiden special weight at 5 furlongs. We go with a field of 7, some good experience as far as having a solid building block kind of educational run. I think the 2 Maru's Raven got that in his sloppy track debut. He's one of 3 in the second race, in fact, bred by Brad Kelly's Calumet Farm, and he took plenty of kickback over a very wet track in his first race here on June the 8th. I didn't really see the lacked room upper. He was more or less up close chasing inside. I thought he angled out and kind of finished okay between horses behind Bal Harbor, who I even think with the 2 baby stakes out of the way on yesterday's card, the Brave Raj and the Kiss a Native, I still think Bal Harbor, who beat Maru's Raven by about 2.5 lengths, is the best 2-year-old I've seen so far at GP this summer.
There was another horse in this race, and that was Majestic Secret, who came back to run exceptionally well. So this horse was flatted. I'm talking about Maru's Raven. You know, Majestic Secret came back, broke its maiden in impressive fashion. So I thought that was one of the one I put on top of my ticket for that. Little traffic at the top of the stretch.
All right, you like the race that he comes out of, and not a cakewalk of a trip over a very wet track. Obviously, the weather far better today for thoroughbred racing as we are tied on with fast and firm conditions, as is trainer Fernando Abreu, who's got the 3 dead broke. Why don't we backtrack to OBS March of 2017? This colt by a sire in Perspective, who I'm not very familiar with, will pick up dead broke. This was a pretty good 2-furlong breeze. He wound up in this sale breezing a 1/4 mile in 22-2, and I would think going 5 furlongs today off a workout in which he looked like he could motor a bit. He might be a pace presence and maybe a firster today who's pretty live for Fernando Abreu.
Well, let's hope he can run. Looks good there. Let's hope he can run like that today. Did not use him on my ticket, but this is a wide open affair, and I went with the 4 Shanghai Schwartz in second. I love the name. He's the son of Shanghai Bobby, Harlan's Holiday. What I like about this horse, Patrick Biancone, working him really well. He's got a series of solid workouts showing up at Palm Edge, gets Lasix. Embassy El Jaramillo in the saddle. I think that's going to be one that's going to run well. Oh, you got him right on top.
Picked him on top.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought we were going to go with that other horse on top that we just showed, Maru's Raven.
I like showing the 2-year-old breezes, and that's why we included Dead Broke, who might be dangerous. We'll see if he takes any money for Fernando. But again, wondering if being Cone, so to speak, with his 2-year-old Colts, turning back the clock a little bit, looking at the quality efforts we've seen with Diamond Oops, who's a perfect 2 for 2, and the fact that he has got some horses again for owner Martin Schwartz. It's been a long time since I've seen a being Cone horse owned by Mr. Schwartz. They paid up for a horse, 3rd full out of a dam, who was a 2-year-old winner, so I do like that. Moving on to race number 3 on the program. Oh, we got a stat here. What's the deal with Pony Up?
Pony Up, when you're showing us stuff, we got to get Pony Up in here. Because why? It's Todd Pletcher, 2-year-old first-time starters, Colts and Geldings on the dirt right here at Gulfstream Park. 11 for 31, 35% win average, 65% in the money, $2.25 return of investment. And that's Colts and Geldings, so I just thought that fit perfectly here. That's Pony Up. You're getting Lasix, you're getting Tyler Gaffleone, horse you had in second, and I had on my ticket.
And keep in mind, that stat also works for the 5 Inherit, because he's got 2 in here. He's got a firster by Oxbow. He's also got one by Aconite, and that's the one where Tyler wound up on, you would think. I mean, logically speaking, that's probably the liver of the 2 Pletcher runners in race number 2. 3rd race on the card, 5.5 furlongs on the main. Again, very few scratches today. We did lose 1 runner in this race, the drop down the 4 Formal. With him out in this 3 and up 62.50 claimer on the dirt, I'm going to take the bookend Exacta box, as is Ronnie. The 1 Cat Daddy is where I I went. I liked him even before Formal came out. And I picked him last time. And if I liked him in a race that I think was a little tougher in his comeback off the layup June 3rd, I have to take him here. Played part in a race where the pace completely fell apart. And the thinking goes he's supposed to be fitter, tighter, and better second off the bench as Peter Walder, in the meantime, returns with the 7 Bocati.
Yeah, back in the Peter Walder barn, the Geller makes his first start. He finished 4th as the favorite, a 12-5 condition claimer. Getting back to our Cat Daddy just a moment. You see he finished 6th behind Spurs and Bows, and next out went a Nutty Boy. Both of those came back to run badly on Thursday. I had this horse on top. After that performance, I flip-flopped him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I just felt that I was waiting for Nutty Boy to run back, and remember we mentioned it, and he just didn't run that day, so we'll see.
Yeah, but he did win off the race against our Cat Daddy. It wasn't their immediate next start.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
I just used it as my reason for flip-flopping him.
Okay. The 7 Bocati, by the way, is Peter Walder, is listed as the trainer in the program. His last starter, did you happen to look it up out of curiosity?
I did not.
September 24th, 2016. So a high percentage guy who obviously has some name recognition, guy who can wheel and deal with the best of them in the claiming box. We'll see what Walder can do on a card. He's got a couple of horses entered. Moving on to race number 4 today, a 6-furlong, 3-and-up filly mare, $30,000 to $25,000 claimer. Speaking of trainers and getting some recognition, we've got a 96-year-old Jerry Bozzo with the 5 Cotton to Ya, who's coming in off that history-making race here back on June 3rd when Jerry became and eclipsed the Noble Three-Wit as the oldest, winningest thoroughbred trainer in North American history. Now, we wish Jerry and Cotton to Ya all the best. She's clearly going up in class, and as far as trip, and I'd say better post, all that points to the 7 South, who just things from that crummy rail did not go right for her last time out.
Yeah, winner at this level 2 starts ago has turned it back to 5.5 after that 2-race win streak ended when she didn't handle the sloppy conditions last time out. That was a 12-5 state-bred optional claimer. I'm going to show you a stat on Safi Joseph Jr., second after the claim in sprints on the dirt right here at Gulfstream Park. He's 3 for 16, 19%, 69% in the money, and a very paltry return of investment because everybody knows Safi Joseph Jr. is one of the guys you got to bet here at Gulfstream Park.
Did you take South in the race despite the stat? Oh, did that stat scare you away?
No, not really. I just like Tiana. I think it's Tiana better than I did South. But, I mean, I can understand South being the favorite, and I'll tell you why. Turning back to 3/4 mile, talking about the 6 horse, after leading every step of the way to defeat 25 condition claimers going 7 furlongs, Francisco D'Angelo, Marcos Meneses in the saddle. It was sort of a speed play for me. That's the way I saw it.
Yeah, it looks like they'll hook up early, and may the best filly win. They might run 1-2 around the track. I was hoping your top pick would weaken a bit, and before our run to perfection could pick things up late for Gerald Bennett as she runs for the 25,000. We'll see what happens in the 4th, and again, best of luck to Jerry Bozzo. That's certainly, in addition to the baby races, the 3 of them on the card. It is kind of cool seeing a 96-year-old trainer active and looking to bring a horse back off of victory. You don't see that every day. Race number 5, 3-and-up, $10,000 maiden claimers, 1 turn mile the distance. Is this a 2-horse race between the number 2, Mario's Revenge, and we'll show you his last race, and the number 8, Taken to Church. In fact, before you answer that, let's get to the replay in the spotlight, thanks to the boys upstairs. And a pretty good trip, second time out for the 2, Mario's Revenge, who really gave the LaPenta horse on the lead here, King Power, who was a 1-2 favorite and a huge drop down second time out. I was impressed that Mario's Revenge gave King Power, really tried him here from the outside and gave that horse all he could handle. Do you like him today?
I like him today because out of that race, he finished second, as you're going to see right now, and there was a couple of next out winners in there, one called Annie's Big Boy and another one called Knockout Ranger. So it turned out to be a key 7-furlong dash in the slop. Taken to Church, the obvious choice, who ran well at this distance in March. Ralph Zadie, barn change. You got to respect that.
Yeah, 5.5, just not this horse's game, especially when you combine that with post number 11, and there was no chance once they sprung the latch the way the race flow played out that he could work out any kind of trip. I mean, just essentially chasing 4, 5, 6 wide throughout in that 5.5 furlong race. Maybe not a great claim, the fact that they took him for 12.5 and they're running him back for 10. 10. But again, he's far better posted, and I do think a mile is a far, far better fit for this gelding by Bodemeisters. Again, trainer Ralph Zadie with runners in the 1st, 3rd, and 5th could have himself a big first half to this Sunday card. A Sunday card that'll continue on the other side of this quick breather here on Gulfstream today.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
We're back on this live Sunday edition, July 2nd. Sun is out on Gulfstream today, as are the lights here with our paddock studios. Jason and Ron, glad you're still with us as we focus in on the opening leg of the Rainbow Six. A couple of baby races a bit later in the day, and what's the play looking like?
I couldn't find that single, which I always like to do, but I did a couple of races where I like just a couple of horses, one of them being right here with the 2 and 3, and you see the rest of the progression. $43.20. We talked earlier today, race 9, number 4, Blonde Bomber. Was thinking of singling that horse, but I just had to throw the Miss Momentum on the ticket with
Is that the Pletcher first?
Yeah. So I didn't want to get beat, but I think we might have that luck. We'll talk about that horse when we get to race number 9.
Yeah, looking forward to Blonde Bomber getting a bit more yardage to work with as she tries 5 furlongs. I think she could be pretty good, actually. Maybe one of the better 2-year-old fillies currently running in South Florida, despite the fact she's 0 for 2. And I hate to break it to you, I think your Rainbow Six is going to be worth about this much after Cousin Tino. And bear with me, his last 2 races, they're pretty ugly, but I could not make heads or tails of the 2 Little Christian, the 3 All's Well, and the number 8 horse Hope is Rising. They're all major players, and you've got them 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for good reason. I've got them 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They all look the same to me, and they're all going to be fairly much in the price department. They're all going to be fairly short. No one's going to be a great price. Why not take the 6? That was my thinking. Cousin Tino, who ran really well in his debut for Antonio Sano on April 29th, a race that he made the point, made the lead, and dug in gamely. I wonder if in hindsight, back on May 13th, they thought there was some cheap speed in the race because Stormy Van Dan wound up wiring that field at 35-1, that they opted to take a hold early of Cousin Tino and tried to rate him. And it looked like there'd be a war in front of him most recently on June 24th. But in the end, 3 legit speeds in Charlie Atlas, Walter Jeep, and Indian Scout ran 1, 2, 3 around the turf course, and Cousin Tino never made an impact in a merry-go-round type of race. Zayas back, blinkers on, right to the point. The shades will look good on Mr. Cousin Tino, and I'll take him to wire the field. That includes the 3 All's Well, who, again, we had looked at this horse's start 2 back. He was badly bothered early on, May 13th.
Yeah, he's making the 3rd start of his current form cycle. He rallied to finish the well-meant 2nd at this level in distance. Angel Rodriguez, Tyler Gaffleon, but no need to go on. He already gave you the winner, so let's just flip the page.
It's all Cousin Tino in race number 6. Let's move on.
Sounds like a bet between us there.
Oh, yeah. You want to have a horse-for-horse bet?
Sure.
Straight up? 3 versus the 6?
Yeah.
All right, good. We're even right now. Ronnie had beaten me for brunch. Of course, it was double or nothing, tied it up. So we'll see what happens today. Then in the grudge match in race 6, I will be tweeting out a reminder later on. Or if I forget, tweet me a reminder, please. Race number 7. Let's do it. We've got this 3 and up, 2 lifetime Filly Mare Claimer, little main track action. How much do you trust? And clearly you do. Sarah the Queen Bee, who I may have goofed and should have had her 3rd or 4th here. She's probably going to hit the try, but where do you stand? And we'll look at as Tom Durkin would say, a hydroplane airplane kind of effort in the slop here June 16th. This was an incredible performance.
Yeah, when you watch the race, you just go on and you say, boy, look at this horse, how impressive it was. You know, it won by almost 14 lengths that afternoon. So I said, Sarah the Queen Bee, this is a free square for me right here, you know what I mean? And then I go and I look at a stat, and the stat is on Angel Rodriguez over the last 5 years, maiden winners, last out on the dirt. He's only 1 for 13, 8%, 31% in the money, with only a paltry 32-cent return of investment. And what pointed that out to me was this barn has great stats with most things, but apparently this is not one of them. Do you throw the horse out? No, because of that performance we just shown you. So Sarah the Queen Bee, thought it was going to be a free square. Then I went back, and that's why I added a couple of horses on my ticket.
It's the wet track, and a good nugget there by you, Ronnie, with the stat. I've got a quick one. Last out maiden winners, returning and claiming races. Trainer Angel Rodriguez, who does a lot of things well, he's just 1 for 22 in that category. So anyway, a little late pick 5 rundown. We'll give you the play. I am using defensively. I think she's a shaky favorite and an overbet favorite on the rail. I will also use the 2 outside runners, or close to the outside, in recent transactions, and the 10 U.S. Diva. I'm just going to let it roll with American Frolic as a single in the 8th. Her first start was very good for David Fox, and again, I've been waiting for Blonde Bomber to get a little more ground, and she'll get that today as a single for me in race number 9. Spreadathons in a couple of turf wars in races 10 and 11, but let's get back to the race here of the 7th. I will quickly give you the reasons I picked the number 10 horse on top. That is a U.S. Diva. Liked her last time. She was clearly sitting on a good race, and she got bet that day not too long ago on June 22nd. She could not wear down a 30-1 wire-to-wire winner in Appella's Ball. Going to take her right back and try to beat the number 1, Sarah the Queen Bee.
Yeah, I mean, I got them in 2nd and 3rd, and I put the 1 on top. As I said, I originally thought when I handicapped, I had the free square, but, you know, I think you might have the logical 2 behind that number 1, and you did what I did, too. You saved with that 1 by putting it on your ticket.
All right, let's move on to race number 8 here. A couple 2-year-old races, as I said, late in the program. In fact, 2-year-old fillies in this rolling double in races 8 and 9. $60,000 purse, a good one. 5 furlongs on the turf, and you do have experience kind of really sink your teeth into here. Whether you like her firster or not, we'll find out, and that's up to you. But there's going to have to be, I think, a pretty good firster to defeat the 4 American Frolic off a very good debut, where she, and we'll show you the race via our spotlight back on June 10th, 3 weeks ago, she never really had a breather. Kind of a hard chase out there, 3 wide, and tracked the pace, stayed on very gamely behind Classy Dancer, who bombed on the dirt yesterday in the Brave Raj, but as a turf filly, looked pretty good in her debut win for Pletcher.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I got American Frolic on top, trained by David Fawkes, ridden by Luca Panici this afternoon. I just thought off that debut. Yeah, you see the number 8 horse closing down to be 2nd. Off that, certainly looks like the one to beat in there. I also used the 5 Treasure for Gold as a half-sister to $1 million earner. Finally made it, but by saying that, finally made it, never won on the turf. But what I found interesting, our boss, Tim Rippo, was the last trainer of record that finally made it. So I just
that's pretty cool. That horse, as you said, was a 7-figure earner.
Oh, yeah.
And one of a few star quality caliber horses in the family of the 5 Treasure for Gold. The dam's been around for a while. She's up there in age, but she's been prolific and has produced some quality. And I've got to tell you, the young freshman sire, Treasure Beach, who was more of, in my memory, more of a long-running Euro turf horse. He's 2 for 6 so far as a freshman stallion. So his 2-year-olds have been fairly precocious. In fact, he had 1 win on yesterday's card. Moving on to Blonde Bomber and the crew in Sunday's 9th race as we go down the road with this 2-year-old filly, $60,000 maiden special weight. It's a lot to like with this gray filly by Fort Larned, who's still looking for his first win as a young stallion, and I think he's got a good one here on Blonde Bomber, who walked out of the gate in a highly touted debut back on May 18th. It was her 2nd start on June 7th that really sold me that I think she's got some quality to her, because she was in a tough spot, chasing hard between, and never backed down. In fact, had been steadied a little earlier on the far turn, but despite losing some ground, mustered up a good rally and never laid down in this race. She fought gamely down to the wire.
And finished 2nd in that race that you're showing, 2 Rose to Fame. And what did Rose to Fame do? Come back and win the Brave Raj yesterday.
Yeah, she upset the Brave Raj. She's now 2 for 2. A gemologist filly trained by Antonio Sano. And you thought even in a debut in which she was talked about being a good one at 8-5 on May 18th at 4.5 furlongs, that Blonde Bomber being a Fort Larned out of an El Prado dam, even if she was speedy and win ready as a 2-year-old, was probably going to improve in the longer races as the distances started to stretch out. She gets the 5 furlongs today, and she may have a real rival. We'll see in the 5, Bernadetta, who's the Bernardini firster out of a good family. You're going to try to split the likely favorite and the Pletcher barn with the 3, Miss Momentum, who's by Uncle Mo, but did not really sell all that great last year as a yearling.
A sign that produces a 2-year-old first out winners at a 20% rate. And I want to show you, no, that stat was on Blonde Bomber, so we passed that one already. So Miss Momentum was the one I was afraid to.
What's the stat, though? I want to see it. Good one or bad one?
Well, it's good. 2-year-old sprint. This is Blonde Bomber, Stanley Gold. 2-year-old sprints, first time Lasix on the dirt. 7 for 34, 21%, 62% in the money, $1.17 return of investment. So good. Makes Blonde Bomber look better to me in there. And going back to Miss Momentum there, I just thought Mark Cassidy, Lasix, Edgar Zayas. I'm afraid of this horse, so I didn't leave it on the ticket. I think that Blonde Bomber would have been my single.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier on when I showed my ticket, I saved with this one, afraid that I might get beat by an Uncle Mo.
Third fall, I love Uncle Mo. He's, people know he's in my top 5. He's in the Blue at Hall of Fame and one of my top 5 horses all time. Third fall out of that dam is the 3, Miss Momentum, and the 2 others were minor winners, but they did hit the winner's circle. Turf is where it's at for races 10 and 11 on the card, and as you could see from my 4-horse spreads in a late pick 5, I think both the 10th and the 11th, big fields, I think they're very competitive. And Peter Walder, at his first day training and having his name back in the program since late September of 2016. He's got Bocati in race 3. He's also got a horse I absolutely love. I really like the 5 Starship Zorro in Sunday's 10th race, and thought this horse ran great in his most recent start back on May the 10th. He has not won yet in 2017, but I'm not going to let that deter me from a horse who, again, did not really have things his own way over a turf course that was favoring horses that had inside speed. And although this horse was able to stay covered up, he's basically at this point, Ronnie, ridden up into traffic with nowhere to go. And I just like the confidence and poise that Starship Zorro in a tough spot. I mean, it looks like he's probably almost going to clip heels in front of him, but he's able to get out of that spot, find a seam, extricate himself, and he puts in a very stubborn run to finish second behind Dominate. I love this horse going to Walder with time between races. It is all, for me anyway, Starship Zorro in the 10th. How do you see it?
I got a ticket, but I went back and I really handicapped this race over again when I spotted the one Katie's Coop was dropping a notch and turning back to a mile today. Pressed the pace, weakened through the lane to finish 7th. It was a competitive 25 condition optional claimer going a mile into 16. Michelle Nihei, Luca Panici, inside draw this afternoon. I just thought this horse off that last performance, and I know it was going to be 6, 8, or 10 to 1 on the line.
Big price.
You know, I just
big price.
got a
What
feeling,
price does Jay have?
I didn't even know. It's 5 to 1. No, 5 to 1.
5. All right.
Yeah, so I just thought it'd be a price, and I wanted to get somebody that I thought might handle it. And I kept going back to this race. It's one of those things you keep going back to this race, and I think Michelle Nihei and Luca Panici might have a winner in this one.
I
But
like it.
Starship Zorro for all the reasons you mentioned.
All right, fair enough. You've also got Major Key in the mix, the 7 Croy and the 8 Little Matt taking some play. It's a good 10th race here late in the card, and things don't get any easier in race 11. No layups or big favorites to cash out the week here at Gulfstream Park. And again, dark here tomorrow, back in action Tuesday on the 4th of July with a special holiday card. But anyway, let's end the day as winners, even though we disagree. 3 and up Filly Mare, 12-5 maiden claimers, 5 furlongs on the turf. I will take the 9 Flying Queen, who's just kind of a new face here for a high percentage barn. She's yet to run and therefore has yet to lose for the 12-5 claiming price.
And I went to the 4 Dreaming of Rosello, who's making her first start since vying for the lead and finishing 4th at this level and distance back on May 17. Roshan Crique and Tyler Gaffleon handling the return to action. I just thought that maybe this was the logical horse off that performance. Perfect State in second, and then number 10, Hostile but awesome in third. So we are not, well, we got one horse that we sort of agree on. You're third with my first.
Yeah, the 4 is very dangerous there and probably a lukewarm favorite to end the day.
Yeah.
I think the 7 better be fast worth a look as well, despite bombing at 1-5 last time. Go back, watch that race replay. That horse had an impossible trip despite the fact that he or she was 1-5. All right, speaking of he's, Pete Aiello, the man, sounded great up in the booth yesterday on the Summit of Speed. He's coming up next with your opening set, pens, pencils, tablets ready. He's got those scratches and changes coming your way, and Ronnie and I will be back shortly right here from the stage before the first.